If you're managing your own deals on Twitch and YouTube, this is the video you need to watch. We're going to give you rates and information about how to price out sponsorships. In addition, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the industry. Hi folks, my name is Sean and I run a company called S Tier, where we manage creators and work with brands, helping them do activations across Twitch and YouTube. Before this, I spent about 7 years working in a more traditional talent agency role, and between my past and current careers, I've negotiated over $10 million for clients and secured over 1,000 contract opportunities. When I first started working in digital media, I knew a lot about negotiating deals, finding opportunities, and writing the paperwork. What I didn't know was how much to charge for a creator or influencer's time. I scoured the internet and there wasn't much out there, and what I did find, I now know to be inaccurate. We're making this video because we feel it's important to help empower creators to be able to make good decisions when considering sponsorships. We're going to break this video down into 2 parts. First, we're going to do an industry overview. We're going to talk about why sponsorship rates actually differ between small and large creators. Then we're going to talk about marketing agencies. What do they do and how do they fit into the picture? Then we're going to finish off about that pesky "what's your rate" email. Why do you keep getting it and what does it really mean? Then we're going to discuss the 4 most common types of sponsorships I see on these platforms. We're going to talk about sponsored streams on Twitch. Then we're going to talk about YouTube pre-roll and mid-roll ads. We'll talk about YouTube dedicated ad videos and finish off with brand packages on Twitch. Other sources or people might tell you to simply charge what you're worth. And that's not inaccurate, but it is incredibly dismissive of the competency of the agencies and brands that work in the space. They aren't ignorant. They have full-time YouTubers. They have full-time Twitch streamers working for them, and they understand how the game works. When you get paid to do a sponsorship, you're not getting paid off of a feeling. You're getting paid off an expected reach or return on the sponsor's investment. If you don't have a good understanding of how this works, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're going to leave money on the table. But by the end of this video, I promise you, you'll have a good understanding of how things actually work. And with that, let's move to the industry overview. The first thing we're going to talk about is why sponsorship rates actually vary when we compare very large to more medium-sized creators. It's helpful to think of the landscape as a parabolic curve, or something that looks like a standard distribution. Creators at the very top end, the top 1% of the top 1%, paradoxically will be paid less per metric than someone closer to the middle. It's helpful to understand why, even if this doesn't always apply to us. We want to account for they are absolutely massive audiences. These deals tend to happen across many as opposed to 1 or 2 social media channels. There are far fewer of these creators, so campaigns are usually done with one select or just a few individuals in mind. And lastly, they can look a lot more like traditional brand deals rather than a social media sponsorship. Creators in the middle are going to find things to be much more consistent. A way to illustrate this point is a YouTuber with 100 million views per video will certainly be paid more, but they're not going to get paid 1,000 times more per video when compared to someone who gets 100,000 views. It's important to understand the inherent squishiness that happens as we move to the very top of the creator spectrum, even if the overall rates are much higher. Understanding where along the spectrum you lie is vital when negotiating your own opportunities. Now let's talk about marketing agencies. Who are they and what do they do? Let's say a brand, Starbound Warlords, the hottest game coming to the Google Play Store near you, wants to advertise across Twitch and YouTube. They likely don't have the internal capacity or employees to reach out to creators and do these campaigns themselves, so they'll hire a marketing agency. They'll pay this marketing agency a flat fee, let's say $60,000. Of the 60 grand, a portion, let's say 15,000 or so, goes to the agency for its fee. Let's say another 5,000 goes towards creating custom assets. That means this agency now has $40,000, and their goal is to get the maximum reach possible for their client spend. This is important to understand. Most creators mistakenly assume that when negotiating rates, they're doing so the company can save money, when in reality, it's an organization trying to get the maximum reach for a particular client. This means when negotiating higher rates, we want to do so in a way that justifies why our channel or content is more valuable, especially when compared to creators in a similar space. It's about aligning incentives between you and the group that wants to do the sponsorship, showing that you're on the same team and why working with you is the best option. Now, you might find a situation where a brand is reaching out to you directly. You can usually tell because the email matches up with the company that wants to sponsor you. In these situations, I found you do typically have a little bit more wiggle room. You're dealing with a yearly budget after a campaign budget after all. Regardless, as soon as you start to hit 300 to 400 concurrent viewers on Twitch and 10 to 15,000 views on your YouTube channels, they're going to be reaching out to you and they're likely going to be saying the same thing. Now, regardless of who emails you, they're likely going to be asking you the same thing. The most infuriating message in this industry: what's your rate? Most creators understandably question, why don't they just email me the rate directly? What most folks don't realize is that by the time they get these emails, there's a greater than 50% chance that the agency or brand has already looked at their channel and content and determined how much they can pay you. Truthfully, this is a chance for you to undercharge yourself. Let's use some fake numbers as an example. Let's say you get an email from the Aardvark agency wanting you to stream or do a pre-roll of Starbound Warlords, the hottest game coming to the Google Play Store near you. You take a look at the ask and decide you'll do it for $600. Everyone agrees and everyone goes home happy. But what you didn't realize is they'd already looked at your channel or content and determined that they could pay you up to $1,000. Unknowingly, you've just left $400 on the table. Ideally, the way we want to handle this is by coming in a rate that's higher, but not unreasonably so. In this case, say $1,500. Maybe due to a time crunch or difficulty finding a potential creator, they're able to just meet our higher ask. At the very least, we've now anchored the price at $1,500 and have a real chance of negotiating them up to $1,250. Again, making more money for doing the same amount of work. But we also don't want to go too high and say $5,000 and price ourselves out of the opportunity. As you can imagine, this requires a deft touch and a good understanding of the rates. So without further ado, let's dive a little bit into a rates overview. So you're likely thinking, great, well, what should I charge? It's important to understand that there's no one rate to rule them all. Advertisers, companies, they'll use different ways to calculate these things, and there's never going to be anything that works every time. I'm not even going to tell you exactly how I do it because I rely on some fluid industry information that's not readily digestible into a video like this. But what I am going to give you are actual rates. And every single one of these rates are ones that I've seen at least 2 sponsors actually use to come up with pricing when securing creators. So I can verify that they're accurate. They're not going to get you there every time, but they'll get you close enough where you can feel confident about what you're accepting. So the first thing we'll talk about are sponsored streams on Twitch. These are the most common types of sponsorships on the platform, and they're a type of sponsorship where a streamer showcases usually a game instead of their normal content. It's also the easiest one to price. You can simply go with concurrent viewership times hours streamed. CCV times hours streamed. So if you have 800 concurrent viewers and someone wants you to do a stream for 2 hours, you can simply charge $1,600. Now, there are a few things that affect this. Most advertisers expect a 50% viewership drop-off an hour into sponsored content. So if your channel has a demonstrated history of streaming other titles or genres to say a 15 or 25% viewership drop-off, you can use this to command a premium. This is part of the reason why true variety streamers are often the first in mind for sponsored streams, because advertisers know people will watch no matter what they're playing. But if you stream something niche or only one title, all is not lost. Let's say you stream MOBAs and a MOBA wants to sponsor your channel. You can use the fact you have a present, engaged, hyper-relevant audience is a way to command a premium. Now, when it comes to Twitch sponsored streams, as well as all sponsorships on these platforms, we always want to be thinking about opportunity versus opportunity cost. Let's use some examples. Let's say a sponsored stream on Twitch will include a beta key that will let us play a title early that will be a net benefit for our viewership or that we just want to check out. It's okay to charge less in these circumstances because there's an inherent value to you. Likewise, if it's something you don't want to do or you're worried it's going to hurt your overall viewership numbers, it's okay to charge more. You can mark these rates up by 1.1 to 1.5. All sponsored opportunities on these platforms have an inverse relationship between how many creators within the space are willing to do them and how much they pay. This is part of the reason why gambling sponsors typically have to pay a premium, because it's harder to find people to do them. With that, let's move to YouTube. The most common type of sponsorship on YouTube is the pre-roll or mid-roll ad. This is a 30 to 60 second ad that takes place at the start or within the first 25% of the video. Anybody who spent any time on the platform has definitely seen them. A good rate to charge for a pre-roll or mid-roll is $300 to $700 for every 10,000 views your video is expected to receive, or a CPM of 30 to 70. That's a big range and there's a lot that affects this. So let's talk about YouTube dedicated ad videos and then circle back because they also apply there. For a dedicated ad video, which is just an ad or a video about a game, product, or service, as opposed to something being worked into existing content, we can typically charge 3 to 10 times what we would charge for a pre-roll or mid-roll. Now, this can be a big number. Part of what advertisers pay for in dedicated videos is their ranking within the YouTube search engine. The last thing a new brand or service wants is somebody plugging it into YouTube and the results are just videos with 600 views by channels with 38 subscribers. So it's a way for them to manufacture engagement. Now, for both of these types of sponsorships, there's a lot that goes into them. We can't touch on everything, but let's cover a few of the basics. Unlike Twitch, YouTube allows advertisers to really narrow in on a specific demographic demographic or interest. So depending on how unique that part of your channel is, it can really affect the sponsorship rates. In addition, the integration level is really important. Is it something that can naturally be used and shown off in a relevant way, or are you just going to be doing an ad read in front of a green screen? Let's do an example that touches both on audience niche as well as integration level. Let's say DeWalt wanted to sponsor a YouTuber to show off their newest drill. If they contact a home improvement channel where that drill can be shown in situ, actually drilling things together, to an audience that clearly has an interest in home improvement that will convert pretty well, that's worth quite a bit. Likewise, if DeWalt was using a gamer or a gaming YouTuber to advertise a drill where they're just going to be talking for 45 seconds in front of a JPEG holding up the Hyperscrewer 9000, that's not worth nearly as much. Conversely, if Starborn Warlords, the hottest game coming to the Google Play Store near you, is advertising, they're going to find a lot more value in the gaming channel. Now, let's talk a little bit more about integration level. If you or your editor are really willing to do work to integrate this content naturally in a way that is funny and relevant to your audience, that's worth a lot more. I always tell folks, don't hesitate to pitch fun concepts to advertisers. It'll do better within your channel, it'll play better to your existing audience, and the sponsor will get much better returns on their investment. And these can command quite a premium. So something you want to be thinking about. The last two things to touch on YouTube are understanding your demographics. Gaming channels, for example, typically have a 90% male audience, with the plurality of viewers being in a very valuable 25 to 34-year-old demographic, which has a lot of value to advertisers. Conversely, due to the Twitch to YouTube pipeline, there's a lot of gaming channels on YouTube. So advertisers have a wide range of people to pick from. Valuable demographics drives the price up, many channels drives the price down. So again, all things you want to think about. And if you have a makeup channel, for example, which has a completely different set of demographics, that will naturally appeal to a different set of sponsors. The last thing we'll say on YouTube is once we start getting to 300 million views per video, the game does change. CPMs get pushed down and you start operating off of actual video views, usually after 30 or 7 days, and deal with some things like viewership caps. Don't worry about that too much, but just understand that things change as you grow. Now let's move to Twitch. Next, let's talk about Twitch brand packages. These are advertisement packages that are typically characterized by an ad on the overlay, a chatbot activation every 30 minutes or so, a command in the stream title, usually a panel banner, and daily mentions, but again, advertisers might pick and choose between a couple of these. Now, this one I've seen all over the place. There really is a huge variance. So if you have any ability to reach out to someone else who has done a similar sponsorship or other people within the space, I would recommend you do that. I legitimately have had creators get paid X and then 3 times X for the same exact amount of work for different sponsors. So again, a huge delta in what you can get paid here. These typically operate on a 30-day period, and that's how we're going to price that here. But I have seen it work on 14 to 7 days. Again, a lot of variance, but let me share with you some rates that I have seen actual sponsors charge. One that I see semi-commonly, not surprisingly, it also gives you the lowest number, is by multiplying your concurrent viewership by your average number of hours streamed divided by 10. So if we had 1,000 concurrent viewers and we streamed for 120 hours a month, we take 1,000 and multiply it by 1.2, giving us 1,200. Again, tends to give us the lowest number. So let me give you one that's a little higher. And this is what I would use if I was starting out. It is by charging $25 to $35 for every 1,000 hours watched your channel averages in a month. Twitch allows us to track the total amount of viewership time between all of our viewers in a given month, quantified by time, in this case, hours watched. And this is a good way to base off of the total amount of people that are watching your channel. Again, $25 to $35 for every 1,000 hours watched. So let's take a channel that has 100,000 watch hours, which is a reasonable number for an 800 concurrent viewership full-time streamer. We take 100,000, we divide it by 1,000, giving us 100. We multiply it by 25 to 35 for a range between 2,500 and 3,500. Now let's use an example with less zeros. Let's say we have a streamer who averages 42,069 watch hours in a month, a realistic number for a 500, 600 CCV streamer. We take 42,069, divide it by 1,000, giving us 14.7, multiply it by 25 to 35, giving us a range of about 1,070 to 1,450, which again, reasonably accurate, sometimes skews high, sometimes skews low, but it's a good ballpark. I know that was a lot, but there's a lot of good information in there that will help folks negotiate their sponsorships a lot more effectively. The last things we'll say on sponsorships is if you do one, give a good faith, earnest effort to do your best. If you mail it in, the sponsor can tell, the audience can tell, and it's usually a bad viewing experience for everybody. In addition, respond quickly, sound professional, do well, and you'll find a lot more of these are going to be making their way to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. this was a lot. We put a lot of work into this, and I hope it was helpful to everybody. As far as I know, this information is not readily available. So I really hope that it's able to help some creators and people who are both seasoned and starting out. If you did find this helpful, it would mean a lot to us if you followed us on our Twitter and Instagram pages, as well as the usual, like and subscribe to this video. We are sort of exiting what we call stealth mode, and if you can help us build a little support and you found this helpful, it would mean a lot. In addition, if you are a creator who is finding themselves at the point where managing this stuff is difficult and you just aren't really in a place where you can handle it or have the bandwidth, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to talk to any and all creator. In addition, if you ever have any questions about what to charge for a sponsorship, you can just DM us. We'll be happy to help you. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.